Welcome back, folks, to the Acadia After Dark podcast. I am your host, Reverend Redbeard, and this week I am joined by a literal haunted campsite from the internet. Ant, how you doing?
I'm good. Just here being a forest as I do.
Yeah, you were somebody that popped up a couple of probably like a month and a half or so ago, right around the time that for some reason or another the algorithm decided to really like forest themes accounts for a week or two there. You and I
Yeah,
both got swept up in kind of the same wave of the algorithm that boosted us both like exponentially. My account friggin' like literally went up by like 4,000 followers in the course of a couple of weeks, and yours did even more than that because the next thing I think we were like pretty much like around the same amount, and then like I looked at your account a couple of days later and it was like yours had just like tripled overnight, and I was like, oh shit, like not sure what it was, but that was a pretty blessed friggin' week of just like lucky algorithm for everybody, I guess.
I have a whole theory about why you and I in particular benefited that week.
All right, let me hear that because
Well,
I'm interested.
so when I started the campsite, it was just supposed to be a little writing project, but I created it. It was, I think, the day that Zelensky was in the Oval Office, and I was like, that was the day I created it. And I think that weekend was when they started making announcements about like they were going to start logging in the forests and stuff.
Yes. Yes.
And you and I both had forest themed accounts, and I think that just kind of pushed us up to the top of the algorithm.
Yeah.
Just because the word forest was in there.
That very well might be because honestly, like I think it was the first post that I had that really got like big numbers was one that I had posted that it was like a picture from Acadia National Park.
Right.
And it was like when some students and volunteers and stuff like that, it went out to Sand Beach, which is a local beach. It's right out on Mount Desert Islands, beautiful place. And they had taken a bunch of stones and shit, and they had basically written out "resist" on the beach. And I posted that picture because they are on Facebook, but they're not on Threads for whatever reason. So I reposted the picture on Threads, and I guess it must be that it saw the forest and it was like, this is a nature account. And then immediately just boosted my account. Then I posted something like the day after being like, hey, we tell scary stories about these woods. And then that was when it pulled you into my algorithm.
Yeah.
Because then that day I saw you in like my suggested accounts or whatever. And I was like, well, what the hell is this? So it was like a haunted campsite. Like, that sounds cool. I'd go. Like,
yeah, and I think you were in my first 50 followers because it was that Saturday I had woken up that morning.
Yeah.
I had created the account like on a Thursday before I went to bed, and then Friday I put up a couple of posts, and then Saturday morning I woke up to like 20 followers, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted, because this was just supposed to be kind of this little writing exercise I was doing. And I was like, all right, 20 followers, that'll be great. And you popped up in there, and I was like, oh, cool. We've got some more kind of haunted forest stuff happening here.
Yeah.
And then it just started kind of growing.
Yeah, it just like cornered a whole like side of Threads that kind of overtook like any of the spooky accounts I had seen before, because like honestly, I've been on Threads since launch. I started Acadia After Dark in October.
Yeah.
And that account was like the slowest growth I've ever seen for social media. For some friggin' reason, it just never wanted to gain a lot of traction on anything.
Right.
Until that. And then all of a sudden it's like now, like you see all these friggin' haunted friggin' accounts popping up and all these like little ARG accounts and stuff now, which I was saying for the longest time. I was like, that's the one thing I missed about Twitter was having all those accounts. And now we've got them all on Threads finally. I was like, this is friggin' great. This is just what I wanted. It's so cool.
Our little corner of Threads there in little spooky land has really just blown up over the past 2 months or so.
Oh, it's wild stuff. I never would have expected it, because it's like, honestly, a lot of other accounts I've seen like that, it didn't it didn't last for like this has for, this has been a month or two that's been just sustained, like constant, like more activity, new accounts cropping up all the time. It's been very different. It's cool. I'm happy about it, and it's cool to
Yeah,
see.
it's like every day I'm like, oh, what's going on Threads? Oh, there's a haunted pet store. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. Let's
Did you
run
get
with it.
followed by the laundromat?
No, I haven't seen the laundromat
Okay,
yet.
so there's a haunted laundromat now. They followed me yesterday. I just love it because it's like you could be like, oh, there's a haunted lake. Oh yeah, there's a haunted campsite. Oh, look, a laundromat now. Like,
Yeah.
that's been fun. And just again, it was one of those things I missed from the old, like, back in the day on Twitter. Like I was big on like some of those accounts. And I was just like, it's so weird that didn't come up until like the last couple of months. And now all of a sudden it seems that it's like all the time on Threads. I'm just seeing more and more of it. It's wicked cool though. But the one thing that was weird about when you first cropped up is because like the first thing that I think that you and I interacted on was when you had asked me something, and I can't remember what that first thread was exactly. But then as soon as that, I think people in their heads kind of formed a canon that your campsite was in my forest. And I was like, well, what the hell? And then I was like, well, we got a lake, we got a forest, we got like, we're building a little national park here. It does make sense. Like,
I mean, Lake Lanier, who is the undisputed,
they've been around for a while. They've been like, they're huge. They're actually like a very big account.
Yeah, they're a massive account. Them, and I don't know how to pronounce it. The Haunted Mall. I don't know. They've both been around for quite a while. And actually that was my first push that I really got, and I feel kind of bad about it because the first big surge of followers that I got was just for a comment, and it's the dumbest comment too, because I had misread what I was commenting on. But Lake Lanier had said something. It was I still remember it was a post about he had said that Elon Musk had fired the druids that were holding it back.
Yes.
And I commented on that, and I had misread it as Elon Musk had sent druids to hold it back. So my comment actually makes no sense in context. But for some reason, I just started getting this surge of I got like 200 followers from that comment.
Yeah.
And then I guess I just started showing up in the algorithm after that.
Yeah, I think that's all it takes really, is when you get that initial like fast reaction, that Threads algorithm is like, oh, people like that when you do that. So then all of a sudden they're like, oh, happy chemical from this page. We're going to boost that in the algorithm. And that's kind of how it has been, is honestly, it's like, you've been pretty overall positive, side of Threads. I like to look at it as like, mine is more of the serious, dark, and spooky side of things.
Yeah.
Lake Lanier is like the scary, angry side of Threads. And yours is like the happy, more positive and supportive. Like, you're a haunted campsite, but you're a pretty cool haunted campsite.
I like to think that the campsite tries very hard to be an evil campsite, but is just way too concerned with being supportive of people.
Right.
And so it's really hard out there running wellness programs and like just kill the campers. No, it's like we gotta help. There's people out here, they need help. It's rough times.
Right, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. That's going to be my going head canon now, is that the camp like thinks that it's evil, but it's actually just doing a lot of good stuff and just doesn't know the difference.
It just can't differentiate between it, and it just winds up being the most supportive haunted forest ever.
Yeah, it's just like, woo, you can do it. Like, it's great. I love it. It's been a very fun part of the experience on Threads, which, Threads, I've overall liked it as a general like social media site compared to a lot of the other ones. It's been better than most. But it was starting to get to the point that it was like a lot of stuff was feeling the same, and like there was like we were getting those influx of rage baity accounts and shit like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
So then to see this come up, it was like a good distraction. I think a lot of people kind of gravitated toward that. You and I had talked about it before.
Yeah.
DMs where we were saying that was like with all the stuff going on, it was almost like people needed to escape the horrors of the real world into like fantasy horrors that were created on the internet.
Yeah,
and that makes a lot of sense.
It does. And when I started out, because when I first started, I tried a lot of different things. I experimented a lot, and I would make some posts about current events and things that were going on. Yeah. But I noticed those were the posts I was getting significantly less engagement on. Like 20, it was like at 25% of what I would get on pure fantasy stuff. So I started to realize that's not why people are coming here. They have enough current events. They see it all the time. They don't need more of that. They're coming here for something fun and escapism. So I just kind of stopped that. I will still repost things because there's a part of me that can never not be politically active and involved. Same. But as far as my actual posts go, I've pretty much learned to just stay away from it because I feel like I've kind of created a little bit of a haven where people can get away from it and look at something else for a little bit and get some jokey laughs before they go back to the real horrors.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely can understand that. And likewise, I'm a pretty political person, like off the internet as well. And so every time that like I see stuff, obviously my whole shtick has been that like I'm like fighting for the forest by scaring the shit out of people by the things that are in it. And that's kind of been my whole angle. So I can be vaguely political as long as it's pointed towards like nature and conservation and stuff like that. The moment that I cross over into other territory, I immediately see the same thing where the posts just drop off. And I tend to agree that you're probably right. It's like people are looking for something different. And hey, I understand that. It's like, it's funny earlier, where I had posted that thing this morning where I was just like, yep, just going to be quiet for the day, whatever.
Yeah.
I lost like 5 followers instantly. Just like I don't know if it was because of that or they just did a random bot purge this morning or what, but like literally like as I'm like loading that and looking at my page, I just watched the number change and I was like, well, that sucks. And then like like a couple hours later I'm like, well, I spent the day freaking building a website, so now I can finally share this, and these 5 fuckers already took off. Like, I'm like,
exactly. And when I just call that cleaning the pool, because if anybody's gonna leave over like me needing some personal time, or they're going to leave because they didn't like something that I felt passionate about, cool, all the better. We're clearing space for other people.
Exactly. And it's funny how some people can be so fickle on social media where they'll be like, I agree with 99.9% of the things that you say, and then I will block you over this one thing that pissed me off. Like, all right, whatever. If that's your prerogative, that's fine, because it's everybody's experience. Whatever they want to have on their internet, that's their thing. Nowadays we have an algorithm for a reason that makes it so you can select to get rid of some stuff. I mean, I encourage people to create your piece, but at the same time, I'm like sitting there and I'm just like, well, I mean, if they're only here for like this one specific type of post, I'm not going to limit myself too much to fit into this one demographic, because I know for every time I do that, there's going to be like 50 other people that will probably be like, yeah, this is why I like this page.
Exactly. And, I've made a point of, when I post things, I don't watch my follower count unless I'm getting close to like a landmark. If I see I'm at like, if I'm at like, last time I checked, I was like at 8,200 and something or something like that.
What are you at right now? Let me look at this.
I haven't looked at it at the numbers. I don't watch it very closely.
8352 at the moment, which is
okay.
Yeah. And followers.
I do. But I don't really watch until like, when that hits like 8,800, then I'll be kind of like, ooh, I'm getting close to something. But I post what makes me laugh. I post what's fun for me, and I do post things that I know I'm going to get low engagement on. Like you follow me, you've seen a lot of times. Yes, I get the most engagement on my good morning posts, my good night posts, and my camp announcements. Those are the biggest ones.
Yep.
But I do also post what I call my short stories, which are sometimes just a sentence or, just a paragraph. And I tag them as spooky stories. And it's just like, she sat down at her computer and realized that she had to actually write the words if she wanted to publish that book. And that's just the whole story. And I know I'm going to get low engagement on those, but I write them because they entertain me. And while the numbers are lower, the actual visceral response that I get from people, from my followers or from the campers is much more powerful. They're more, you don't need to call me out at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You'll have that one person specifically that was in the corner that has like been zeroed in on to the point that they're like victimized by your post, and they're like, well, now I'm taking it personally. Like,
and those are fun, and I write those for me, but they aren't there to get follower counts. And I do tend to do those on the weekends because I try to. It's not easy. This is hard. This is work.
Yeah. I don't think people realize. As soon as we got over like a couple thousand followers, my notifications just turned into a blur. They're basically useless. I can't comment on stuff fast enough to possibly keep up with 90% of the stuff. And I don't know how people with larger accounts are in the tens of thousands or higher. I don't know what they're doing with their accounts, because honestly, it just seems completely unmanageable at that point.
I don't know, but I keep my notifications on at work so that when people see me and they're around me, they just keep hearing dinging coming from my phone, and they're like, wow, you're really busy. And I'm like, I know, I'm just overloaded with work. I really got to I got to finish this up and get back to the it's totally unrelated to work.
Yeah, no, it really starts to feel like, a certain degree is almost like another job of just keeping up with the social media stuff. Like I told my fiance, I was like, I honestly just have to kind of limit it to a certain amount of time per day. And that's just healthy anyways for me, because if I doom scroll, it's just not going to go anywhere good. But like, give myself an hour or two in the morning, give myself an hour or two at night, and then like try and limit it after that. Because otherwise, man, if I was just like doing all the stuff on the internet, like, threads and whatever, I would never write anything else. I would just be constantly posting stuff on there. And I'm like, I have a whole YouTube channel and podcast and like books I'm trying to write right now. I cannot spend 14 hours a day scrolling socials. Like,
right. I've had to, like today, I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but today my posts from about noon on have been pre-written and scheduled. Everything up to my, everything
breaking kayfabe.
Everything up to my goodnight message tonight is already there. It's scheduled to go off at certain times, but it's essential, or I could never get on with my life. And those posts are scheduled, but yes, as soon as I'm done here talking to you, I'm going to be back on there and replying to, check the responses and interact with people, because that's the fun part. I like interacting with the followers and the campers and listening, reading their comments. That I've smiled more in the last, 6 or 8 weeks, however long I've been doing this, than I have in the last 5 years. Just because my interactions with them have been so much fun, and they're so creative and funny, and it brings me joy, but it's also work at the same time, and you have to learn to balance that.
Yep. It's kind of like being in, a crowded room or something. You want to say hi to everybody in there, but it is like draining the social battery at the same time. And I don't know how extroverted you are off the internet, but I know for me, I'm pretty much like tapping myself pretty much regularly at this point if I have anything above that to do. And I'm like, it's probably because of life changes and social structures and everything changing over the last 4 years, 5 years now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how people can just do this full time sometimes. I'm like, it makes me just want to be like, all right, a week off once in a while to just like kind of chill, not talk is easy. Now we go back to the social media. And like you said, you have those days that you're like, I'm scheduling everything and I'm just going to sit on my couch today, or I'm going to do other things and take myself out of that. It's kind of nice sometimes, but then I do miss it, because we have a good community on there in general. Like, I know the people that follow me are all very like cool, like creative, supportive people. Like, I was looking through some of the followers that I got, a couple weeks ago. I was just scrolling through my followers list, and I'm like, man, I got all these cool authors and artists and like all these creatives on here. I'm like, holy crap, like this
Yeah.
is nice. Like
I've got a solid portion, and occasionally I'll pick a theme that I'll work with for the week just because it makes the writing easier if I have some guidelines to work from. And like a couple of weeks ago, it was writers, because I know I have a bunch of either professional writers or book publishers or people that just write for fun or people that wish they were writing. And I was like, there's a big chunk of my group that that's what they do. So I always try to make things as relatable as I can. So let's relate to them for a little bit. And then the next week I'll change the theme and I'll relate to somebody else for a little while. But the amount of creatives and writers and artists, and I've been very lucky. I've had very few bad interactions. I've had like maybe 2 people come at me aggressively, and rather than do what I would normally do on my personal account and argue with people on the internet, I just immediately block. I'm just not engaging.
I just send them right to the void. I'm not even messing around with it on this account. If you want to argue, you argue to a wall. I'm not doing it. And it's not worth it. When you got that, like, when you've got such a good community, there's no reason to listen to like the one vocal minority, the one dude that's got a problem out of like, however many hundred of people you talk to a day. I'm not going to give that any time of day.
Yeah. And the worst part of it is the first one that did it had a good point. And I actually made a change based on what they had to say. It's just they came at me aggressively rather than having a conversation. And I'm just not going to do that. So I just went, okay, you're blocked. And now I'm going to do what you wanted me to anyway.
Yeah. That was actually basically the exact same thing that happened with the first person that I had to block on this account. And it was like, same deal. They made a valid point that if they had come at me and been like, if they had like, just said, hey, I just wanted to discuss this because it was a thing that you said that kind of concerned me, I'd be like, yeah, I want to hear other people's feedback and stuff. And I don't want to say something that's going to make something like people feel put out, unless they're like Nazis, in which case, like, fuck them. But the rest of the people, I just generally am like, yeah, like, and this guy, he just was so goddamn angry. And I just see this comment and I'm like, all right, whether you're making a point or not, this is not the way you deliver that message. So block.
Yeah.
And then went about my day and was like, okay, I'm going to rein it back on this certain thing. Cause I was like, I do understand what you're saying. I might disagree with him to a degree, but he had a valid point and I'm not going to dispute it. So I changed my behavior, did better, but he also can't be a dick about it at the same time.
Yeah, they had a point, but they very obviously didn't want to have a discussion. They wanted to tell me how wrong I was. And I'm not here for that. I very literally started this account because back in January I was hospitalized I was having so many health problems, and I wound up in the hospital, and a battery of tests and stress tests and echocardiograms and CAT scans, and turns out it was stress. My stress was literally killing me. And so that's when I decided, all right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take one of the stories I have in my head and I'm going to write a book. And so I started writing a novel, and I was having fun with it. And, but I didn't feel like the humor was really punching as much as I wanted it to. So that's why I started the campsite, was just as a place to practice. And this was quite literally my stress relief. So I'm definitely not going to get deep into an argument with somebody on what I'm doing to relax.
Right. Yeah. That would be pretty antithetical to the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's counterintuitive to my whole goal here.
Right. Yeah. Not worth your pace. I mean, honestly. And, some people are just there to argue.
They are. And I'll admit,
the guy has a point. Okay. But you know how it is. A lot of times, even if you are trying to have a discussion with somebody, 9 times out of 10, the person on the other side is just arguing in bad faith more often than not nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
So I just don't bother engaging either. It's just not worth it. In your situation, definitely not. Like,
yeah. And I fully admit there's one of my favorite XKCD cartoons from like well over a decade ago. It was like somebody's partner. Hey, are you coming to bed? It's 2 a.m. And he's like, I'll be there in a little bit. Somebody's wrong on the internet.
Yeah.
And that was me. I was very much somebody's wrong on the internet and I'm going to deal with it. And that landed me in the hospital, and I learned an important lesson from that.
Yeah.
So that I'm here to have fun. I'm here to have a good time. Yes, it's awesome that it's growing into something more than that, but I'm not here to fight with people. I'm not here to argue, and I'm not going to deal with it.
For sure. Yeah, no, and that's definitely protect your peace, and it's definitely, a good thing. And like you said, you're doing it for fun. It's supposed to be a positive and like uplifting experience, and the account is overwhelmingly positive. So I don't see any reason to ruin that over a few bad apples.
Yeah, the block button's there for a reason, and I found it's very easy to press.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best features on Threads. This is like mute, hide for everybody, block. My 3 favorite buttons on there.
I love and I have levels of mute. Is just all right. They didn't do anything really bad, but I don't personally want to see it. Hide for everybody is all right. You pushed the line, but I'm not gonna kick you out of the group. And then block is just you're gone.
Yeah. I had this thing because on my old personal account, I was a little more trigger happy with it. But this account, I tried to I had to rein myself in because I was like, there was some stuff that I was just like, this would annoy me on any other situation, but I'm just going to allow this person because they're just engaging with the, stuff in the way that they find to be best for them. But then there was this one person that just kept coming onto my posts and was very obviously not getting the point, not understanding what this account was all about and stuff. And at a certain point, I was like, I'm just going to mute this person because they don't mean any harm. They're innocent. But at the same time, I'm not going to have to explain every post to this person.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not going to work for the next however long I'm doing this account.
Yeah, I've had to learn to balance that. This person is kind of irritating me. I don't have the same sense of humor, but they're just having fun and enjoying themselves and not hurting anybody. But I don't want to read it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's been a few of those that I'm just like, okay, dude, you gotta calm down. And I have a couple of private accounts that follow me that just comment regularly, and those are all very nice. They're all wicked cool people, and so I don't mind them. But every once in a while, there'll be this one that I'm like, I don't know if I like private accounts following me anymore, and I wish that was a thing they would fix on this site, but I just don't know what to do about it because I'm I know some of them are totally chill. Then there are other ones that I'm just I don't want to see this person's name come up in my notifications ever again. But overall, it's been a very good, overwhelmingly, I might gripe about a little bit of it, but honestly, the whole thing with the last month or two has just been nothing but good stuff for the site. And, shifting gears a little bit because you told me about why you started up the page, but when you had started, you said that you were writing your novel, and if it's the one that you sent to me, definitely much different than the definitely much different. I enjoy it a lot because I am into fantasy. I'm into a lot of different genres. Voyage of the Abyssal Nomad, and wicked cool start. You're off to something. I dig it because I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh yes.
I finally got around to playing that. So
nice.
It's scratching that same fantasy itch that I have with that. So I've been really enjoying.
That means I did something right because I can tell you the reason that I started writing that story, or at least the premise behind that story. And I guess I'll get into it. I'll get into the book a little bit because I sent you the first few chapters. You haven't gotten to the big part. It's a sci-fi story, but it's sci-fi, or it's a fantasy story, but it's fantasy sci-fi or sci-fi fantasy, however you want to put it. And it was specifically because I play D&D. I have a bi-weekly game that I've been in for a year. I play a lot of Baldur's Gate. I'm on my fourth playthrough of that game, and from reading it is it's the story takes place in a fantasy world. The main character is this half demon, half succubus, and her best friend is an elf, and she's got these other friends that are like a goblin and a gnome, and later there's an orc, and there's a bard, there's a whole thing, and it's because as the basic premise of the story is that this character, Crestia, which you already read about, has these theories that there are other worlds beyond their little magical realm.
Yeah.
And she used to she was a researcher at the university, at this arcane university, and they were like, "You're crazy, you need to give up these dreams." And she said, "No, I won't." And they kicked her out. And her dream is to prove them wrong. So she and her friends have built this ship, and the premise is that she is going to open a portal to another universe, and it's our universe. But in the distant future, mankind has gone to space. It's Star Trek, aliens everywhere. There's a galactic empire. This all happens in the first three chapters. So
I love the idea.
Yeah, but it was all because I play a lot of D&D, and I was like, what happens when this D&D party goes to space?
Yeah. So one thing, and I guess I was starting to pick up on that, because that, like I said, I wanted to read more of it. I haven't, unfortunately. My freaking schedule sucks right now.
Yeah.
And I got like a chapter, and I was like, well, at least I got the first taste of this. But one thing that I was like, I definitely, like I said, I picked up Baldur's Gate, but one thing that like I'm very into is I like a lot of audio dramas.
Yeah.
And in particular, two of them lately that I've been pretty obsessed with consistently for a while now.
Mhm.
One of them is called Midnight Burger.
Okay.
Yep. And it's a sci-fi like audio drama about like a diner that shows up in just random places in space and time. And then changes. Cool. It's like Sliders. It changes locations every day, but they've been having, it's like 5 seasons in. And it's just been like a progressing like sci-fi drama as this whole thing has been progressing. And
I'm gonna have to track that down.
It's fantastic. It's such an incredible show. Like so good. I can't rave enough about it. I could have like a whole fucking episode just talking about the crazy shit in that. But the other one that I've been listening to a lot is a show called Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally like, think Critical Role. Right. Except every character in it is just like a Rick and Morty version of said characters. Like It's just like everything in it is hysterically like just dumb. It's like Idiocracy in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. You know what I mean?
I love crossing realms. That's my favorite.
And that is the thing, is like, you know, mixing the sci-fi Star Trek element with the fantasy like Baldur's Gate. It's such a good mishmash of genres, and it's such a cool direction to go with something that I'm very looking forward to seeing like where this goes with your story. I hope that you can get it to a position where we get a full like, you know, book, and then, you know, who knows, maybe more after that, because that's
what I'm shooting for.
Great start from what I've read.
Well, that's good. I'm glad somebody likes it, because it's been very hard to get. It's hard to write a book when you don't have, like, at least for me, I don't want to speak for everybody, but it's hard for me when I'm not getting any feedback. And I can show it to my friends and family, but my friends and family don't even follow my Threads page. They're just like, that's that. Oh, it's very cute, sweetie.
Yeah, exactly. Good job.
Yeah, good job. And a little head pat.
Yeah.
And the few friends that I do have that have read it, who have been like, this is great. I'm like, oh, you're my friends. Of course you have to say that.
Right. Of course.
I just don't have the self-confidence to believe them. So it's good to get a little bit outside opinion there. But yeah, I'm hoping to turn this into something more. And like I said, the camp, it's a very different theme than the campsite. The campsite's actually based on a short story I wrote like in 2009, I think. And that I never did anything with. And I'm hoping to, you know, to take this one further and actually complete it. So we'll see what happens. I
would love to see a completed version of the story, because I think you're off to a fantastic start. And, you know, it's just one of those things where I know how hard it is to just like finish that first draft.
Yeah.
But I can't remember who it was recently. An author I was listening to, he recently said, he's a very well-known author. I can't remember his name off the top of my head now.
Yeah, I'm horrible with names.
Having one of those days. He was saying, he's like, basically the first draft is like putting all the sand in the bucket right before you build a sand castle.
Yeah.
Like once you get through that first draft and kind of have that's your basic outline, then you can really develop it into something that's special and more. And I took that like really as like big sign that I'm heading in the right direction with my writing, because I finished my first draft in like the course of like, well, because a lot of it was already pre-researched from the first season of, Acadia After Dark. And then
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, well, let me write this into a nonfiction.
Yeah.
And I got like halfway through the book and I was like, well, there's still a lot of shit I can add to this. So I like expanded it a lot more than I originally thought I was going to.
Right.
It took me about a month, but I got it all down in the first draft. But I spent so much time just focused on that one part of it that I had done no other writing. Which
Yeah.
immediately I was like, I got to do some other stuff before I get back and edit this or do anything else with this shit. Cause like, if I don't, I'm going to drive myself crazy over this first draft.
Exactly.
And
And
it's been like a month and a half now and I haven't yet gone back to it, but I know it's like there and I need to.
that's me and the Abyssal Nomad. I was like, I'm going to do this campsite thing as a writing exercise to work on my humor. And
Sure.
I haven't touched the book since I started this because I've been so busy writing goofy threads. And that's why a lot of times when I write those posts online, I'm like, she thought to herself, I really wish I had time to write in my book today, as she finished 2,000 words on her 57th thread post for the day.
Yeah,
because that's me. It's like, I don't have time to write, and I've written half a novel on threads.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I definitely relate to that. That's kind of the struggle of being a creative when you use social media or when you're in charge of managing your own. I mean, I've said before, like a part of me is like, as much as I enjoy like doing the social media and internet stuff, I'm like, if I could just spend all of my time researching or all of my time writing, then I would get so much more accomplished on the day to day. But because like with what I do, I have to do the research, then I write it, then I record it, then I got to promote it, then I got to put it on social media and do that. Like I'm doing so many different jobs that each one of them is like pulling me away from the others. And then I'm like, when am I ever going to get back to doing that one thing that I used to like to do like 6 months ago? Like
exactly. And you do so much more than me. I almost feel bad talking about how busy I am when you've got like YouTube and you've got a podcast and you're doing the social media thing. And I'm like, I just have my little threads page. I mean, granted, I have some other projects in the works. Some I can talk about, some I can't, but it's still, there's just so many different elements, especially when you start becoming, I wouldn't by any means say I have a large threads account. I mean, there's people out there pushing 1 million followers. I have 8,000 something. But at the same time, I remember when looking at 100 followers was like, that would be fantastic.
Right.
Like getting 100 followers would be amazing. And I really felt bad the day that the words came out of my mouth and I said, only 300 followers today. It's slowing down. And that I felt like such a douchebag the moment those words came out of
my mouth. When you've seen that stream of where it was going up by like 1,000 a day for the course of like a week straight.
There was a point I was getting a follower a minute at one point.
Yeah. I remember that first week when I looked at my friggin' notifications before they broke. It was just a steady stream of just follows.
Yeah.
For like an hour. I posted right before I went into work. I clocked into work. Like a couple hours later, I went on break and I was like, holy shit, I got like 1,000 followers in the last 2 hours. What the hell happened? Like,
it's insane. I sat there. It was like that weekend and that first week that you and I both really just blew up. I hadn't curated my notifications. I hadn't gone in and changed what I get notified to. Now I only get notifications for followers and comments. I don't get like notifications anymore, but I had all my notifications turned on and my phone was just a constant string of ding, 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 ding. And it was just, again, I don't now I'm like, I'm not really watching my followers, but at the time it was just like dopamine.
Yeah. I could definitely understand that. I could see how that shit gets addictive. Like I know people that are like, bigger on like TikTok and stuff. And they talked about that as there was just that endorphin rush of just seeing the responses is just like kind of a natural drug. And I was like, I recognized that pretty quickly. And I was like, I see how that would be a real friggin' easy thing to slip into and just get kind of hooked on. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to shut that feature off because I don't think that's helping anybody.
Yeah, this is not healthy. And, there's other little things like the day I went to, I remember a post I went to. I take screenshots of the nice things that people say about me.
Yeah.
Just because I get down sometimes and I get it hard on myself, and I go back and I look at things like where this person just sent me a message to say, thank you so much. I've been having a really hard day and you made me laugh. And I'm like, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Such cool.
But there's also the moments where I remember the first time it happened. It's happened a few times, but I commented on some random post somewhere, and somebody else commented, oh my God, the haunted campsite commented, it's like a celebrity sighting. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, this is getting weird.
Yeah, and that one is funny too. The first time that somebody like posted about my account without tagging me in it, and I was like, they were like, I just got followed by a haunted forest. I was like, and I just give them the eyes. Like that's like my favorite response to people, just to let them know I see them. Is just to like drop the eyes in their comments, because if I go and actually like comment on everything, I will get blocked. Like you did that first couple weeks.
God,
like I will
horrible.
Threads will completely shut my shit down. Like they're so friggin' bad about that on that app, but I still want people to know, hey, I see you. I know you see me. Thank you for the mentions. Like those are ones that I really like. Same here. I appreciate when people message me and they're like, hey, I really enjoy this, or like, thank you for this or something like that. I also just like it when people are like, hey, here's a random creepy weird thing that made me think of you. And then just like kind of tags me in it or something. I'm like, that's cool. Cause like it's something that you don't get enough of. And especially with horror accounts, because like anytime that, like I said before, horror did not work in the algorithms previously. Like anything I posted that was like on the edge, Threads just shut that shit down, where I might get one or two people that see it. Now it's not the case, and so that's been a lot better, and it's been like cool to actually have a community building like compared to what it was anyways like a year ago when I first started on that app. It's a big difference. Wicked cool.
I had a personal Threads. Well, I still have it. I haven't logged into it in a month, but I do have a personal account, and it's funny when I think about it because that account is I had like last check I had like 100 followers, and there was nothing positive. I wasn't doing anything positive on there. I was just like getting in arguments with people, and I was screaming about politics, which I still do in my personal life, but it was that's all it was. And the algorithm, it tells you this is not going well.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of checks you for you at the same time. It's like, it will be like, you don't want a lot of people to see this.
It's like we're protecting you from yourself at this point. But true. It's the algorithm is a fickle beast. Now I have found like my key way. Like when I first started that first week, the way I got initial followers was I started the account. I wrote, 3 or 4 posts just to have some content. And then I just searched keywords. I searched like ghosts, haunted, witches. Witches was a big one for me. And I would just find accounts and go and comment on them and like leave jokes or funny little messages or something. And that's how the community started building, was just putting in those keywords, going to their accounts. And I see a lot of people saying, how do you get followers? It seems so easy for some people. I'm like, it's not easy. I think the big mistake. I think the big mistake people make is they just do posts and they wait for the community to come to them.
You're very proactive in it. Like you're actually seeking out other accounts and interacting with them.
I go and look for accounts and just look for people that have a like-minded thing or are talking about something that I enjoy or that I want to interact with my account. And I go find them, I talk to them, and then, probably 7 times out of 10, I get a follower out of it. And if it's somebody that already has a large follower account, they, I get several follows out of that.
Yeah,
So
that day
there's
you
some work
got
to
into it with MapQuest there, and you like friggin' shot up by like 1,000 followers in like a day.
My favorite thing about the beef with MapQuest was that wasn't my first time messing with them, and I had commented something when I was just starting out to them, and they commented back, and it was really funny because I recently, I guess it was last week or something, I had my little beef with the where I'll admit I baited them.
Oh yeah.
And I baited them in a way that I didn't tag them because I knew one of my followers would comment tagging them. So it was it was a sketchy way of doing it. But I did bait them into it. And my favorite part of it is when they did comment back, they referenced that original beef.
Nice. So you know it's the same
time.
social media manager
Yeah,
that
it's the same person
now.
there, or they went back and looked or something, but they referenced it. And I had like a back and forth where I commented like 4 times, they commented 4 times, which to me that's like the max. End it there. Don't try to drag this out. Don't try to turn it into a big thing.
Don't keep it going for days.
You got 4. You had a little 4 comment each way, back and forth. Let it go. That's great. And I'll admit, I got like a few hundred followers out of it just because they have a big audience.
Yeah. And then they see you interact with them, and it's like, oh, hey, cool, this guy must be cool. And you're developing your lore too. I mean, in that instance, that was one thing that was really funny about like kind of the overlap of the different styles of horror accounts. And you know, we talked earlier about how yours is like much more positive, where mine's like the serious, like the serious and like more, I don't know, like dark side of things, where yours is more like light and fun. But at the same time, there's like a good overlap in just horror elements. But then when you see like people that interact between both of our pages, you'll see ones
we have a lot
like,
of overlap.
Yeah, we do. And then you'll see ones that'll be like, you see the ones that comment a lot on your posts that are like really fun, and they're just like, oh, ha ha ha, like, let me pet the dog or whatever. Meanwhile, I'm literally like, no, you need to watch out for these water lilies or they will literally kill you. I'm not even joking. It's an actual thing. I'll tell you about the case someday. Like, and it's like, it's just so funny to see people be like, oh, ha ha ha, haunted island. And I'm like, no, literally everything here has a goddamn ghost in it. Yeah, you will die in these woods. It's not a joke. Like,
I do like the little community of, I think people have started calling us the cryptid threads.
Yeah, I noticed that the other day. That seems to be that everybody's like, oh, the cryptid accounts. And they like point to you, me, Obi, D Mall, and like Lanier. And then there's like the subset of like inhabitants of the creepy accounts. That are like the ones like the Schemes from a Sorcerer and Dr. Jekyllstein and like those accounts. I always kind of look at them
Sorcerer
as like,
and I both. She's my nemesis. I'm not her nemesis, but she's mine.
You've got lore with that one too.
I do like the world
with
building.
me after they stopped interacting with me pretty quickly because of that time that they done a post that was like almost the same thing that you had said like earlier in the day. And then after that, they stopped talking to me. And I don't know if they still are like resentful or if they just like were like, this person's no fun. I'm not talking to them anymore.
Yeah. I do like, one of the things I've really enjoyed is the world building. And I started my world building right from the beginning because I love lore, and I love, like, I was like, I'm going to build this thing where there are things that I talk about repeatedly, like the cursed item gift shop or the witch in Western Bog. And, I have these characters, the food truck, and
the Maiden Mother and Crone's brunch buffet, like,
which is actually turned into a thing.
I saw that. I was like, that's really cool.
That's actually, it's coming up. I think it looks like it might happen on the 27th, but I actually have about 13 people in my local area that I talk about the Maiden Mother and Crone brunch buffet every week on Sundays. And I was like, I know I have at least some followers in my local area. Let's see what happens. And yeah,
Yeah.
we're actually putting it together.
Dude, that's awesome. I had a couple of followers reach out to me and they were like, hey, like, would you like, speak if we did like a little thing at like this particular place when they open back up? And I was like, maybe, but at the same time, I'm like, is that place going to be all right with this? Like, I was like, I'm just going to like plan something with some random strangers on the internet. Like, there's like a couple of local establishments and the people like know the area enough to where I'm like, yeah, definitely a local. But then at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I really want to like, plan on something like that quite yet, just because. But the way that it's worked out for you is pretty organic and really neat because you just got like just such a wholesome little community over there. It's really cool. I dig it.
It is, and I'll admit, I do like the fact that when I don't look at my analytics very often, it's very rare, but I do look at it on occasion, and it's pretty steadily stayed with my female followers make up about 65% of my following group, and I know yours is similar.
Yeah, mine was around 67, 68 the last time I looked at it. I think it was very high. I was like, good, that's kind of the way I want it.
Yeah, this is the way I want it. I mean, of course, I love my male followers. They're great. They're fantastic. Sure. And I have like 20% that are classified as other, and that's also awesome. But I like having
some cryptid accounts following us. So
yeah, but I love having a large female following, and I was like, I could always use more friends, and I'm sure other people in my area could use more friends. That especially post 2020, it's hard to make friends these days, and so we're having the brunch. We're gonna have a get together, and it's cool that there's this world building and this lore, and it kind of crosses over. Some people try to force it. I get a lot of requests, and I know you're tagged on them too. That people want like you, me, Lake Lanier, the mall, and a couple of others. They're all like, you guys interact, and I'm like, that's cool if it happens organically. That's great. Yeah. But I don't want to do this forced kind of lore shared universe thing.
Exactly, because we all kind of have like an overlap that happens naturally and anytime. And I appreciate that when somebody sees you, they think of me and vice versa.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I agree. I'm like, I don't want it to feel forced. I don't want it to be like that every day, every time that one of us gets tagged, all 5 of us get tagged or whatever. Because then it's kind of like, we are separate and we all have our own thing. Like your style is a lot different than like late in years, is a lot different than what OVD Mall is doing, is a lot different than what I do, and all of them are good.
Right. But we're all I think I like to think that we're all unique, and we all do. And I'll admit I get a little bit like when people are like, oh, you're like that haunted lake. And I'm like, yeah, kinda, but not really. I think we have very different voices. Like they're much more political. They're much more dealing with a lot of just current events, and they're a lot more open about their views and things like that. Whereas mine is a lot more just made up fun haha stories, and you're much more lore and like local legends and folklore and things like that. And I think that's good. I think it's good that we keep those things kind of separate, because it gives people different things that they can go to for what they're looking for, or at least in that moment.
Exactly. Definitely. That's for sure. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And that's one cool thing that's kind of happened on its own. It's just, it happened all at the same time, or it seems we all kind of overlapped at the same time, but at the same time, we all kind of have our own space already.
Yeah.
And so it's really neat that we mesh so well.
Exactly. And I don't want to hurt that.
No, definitely not. And like, again, though, the community is doing a lot of stuff on their own too. It's one of those things. They obviously, I have a feeling when this episode comes out, we're probably both going to have a lot of new followers, because like there's going to be some overlap there that people are going to be like, hey, I didn't know that you were new to them. Like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So even though that we do already have some natural overlap, even the other day when you just mentioned you were going to be on there, I got like 3 followers that you were their only follow. So I was like, there they are.
Here they come.
Yeah, the floodgates have opened. But yeah, speaking of other things that you're working on, because you finally got to reveal one of the announcements in the pipeline, and I don't know how much you want to share of other stuff you might have, but the official Cursed Item gift shop is open, and the internet campsite has now opened their first merchandise store and has some pretty cool little designs in it. I enjoy the stickers. I was looking at the t-shirts. Particularly, I really dig the hoodie. The horrors persist, but so do I. The first time you said that on the campsite account, I accidentally said that on mine, and then I realized you said it, and I was like, "Well, fucking, you got that one. I will stick to my fucking corner of the woods over here because you already nailed that shit."
Oh, I don't mind some crossover, but yeah, we have some merch, and I do. On that point, I do get messages from people. They're like, I've just started saying that. People ask me, they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they're like, "The horrors persist." Oh, okay. And it's kind of become a mantra, and I like doing it because I write my morning post every morning when I'm walking my dog, my good morning post, and I do like ending it with "The horrors persist, but so do we." And I'm not talking about the royal we like I usually talk about. It's us, all of us as a community. The horrors are going on in the world, but we all still persist. But yeah, we have some merch now, I'm talking in the royal we again.
Yeah, exactly.
I have some merch. You have no idea how many times I've done that, like in actual text to friends. I'm just so used to doing it.
I do it all the time now because I'm just like, I know it's only me, myself, and I running this page. But
it's just me.
The dynamic of it, I feel like I have to emphasize we because there's more than just me. When I'm posting something, I'm thinking more of like just a general community in some instances, and like that's why I kind of have that thought process, and I'm sure it's the same with yours.
Oh yeah, and I write more on there than I actually text people I know, so it's just become part of me writing. But yeah, I finally I have some merch just because I tested the waters and people were like, "Yeah, we'd be interested in some stickers and stuff." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I've got that going on. I do have I guess a collaboration in the works with I can't talk too much about it, but I do. They're an actual real world shop that does sell things, and I am we do have something in the works going on there. And like I said, we've got the actual meetup, the brunch coming up, and a couple of other things. This is really kind of turned into way more than I ever expected this little writing exercise to be. But I'm really like you've mentioned a few times, I love the community and the togetherness of it all. And like it's a fun way to share things and for us to all, again, the horrors persist. So we need to have these little things to laugh about and have some fun with and enjoy. And I'm trying to do that. And, possibly expand this into something bigger. I know I'm not on the greatest platform for that, but Threads isn't the most popular platform. But I do. I wish I could.
It's a nice little community over there, though. They really they're not. It's not large, but they're so much more engaged.
They are, and I don't remember who said it. I wish I could give them credit. It wasn't me, but the best description I've seen of Threads is somebody posted. Threads is the internet equivalent of the women's restroom at a bar. It's just everybody's super supportive, and they're going to come together, and things are going horribly wrong, but we're all going to take care of each other.
Yeah, it's 12:30 at your local tavern.
The women's restroom is the most supportive place you could ever be in your life, and so I love that, and I love the community and what I can, I want to provide stuff. So I'm not going to quit my job because I made some merch. It's more for them and something that we can share. And yes, I'd love to see, somebody send me a picture of their water bottle with the sticker that says the horrors persist, but so do I.
Nice.
That would, things like that would be great because it lets me know that, we're all getting through and we're all doing what we need to, and we're doing it together. And that's always a big thing for me. And yes, if I make
I
20
think I'm
bucks
gonna
off of it,
buy
that's
this
great.
horrors persist, but so do I sticker with my water bottle actually. Because I'm looking at the more I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's just a nice sticker.
That's the one that I think would like anybody could use, not just people in my community. I think everybody can deal with
Oh
the
yeah.
horrors persist, but so do I.
Yeah, I haven't looked too much at this site because I have not, as I said before, like I haven't gotten to a point that I'm willing to consider like merch or Patreon or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's kind of one of those things where it's like part of me is like I should, then part of me is like eh. But looking at this though, I'm kind of like these are just some cool designs in general, and just having that, like you said, for the community, not for you to like make a living off of, but just to have something for fans and like people that enjoy what you do to be able to
Yeah.
show their a little bit of support or have something that means something to them. It's a really neat idea. So I
And
get what you're going for.
And if I can make back the $20 that I spent on a font to use it commercially licensed,
Yeah,
great. That's
yeah.
even better. So, it's and plus, I used to be a graphic designer, so I was like, hey, I get to do something I did back in the day.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that is something that I've been kind of enjoying about this, like, resurgence recently is that, like, I used to do a lot more of that stuff myself for like bands and stuff back in the day, and I just have
yeah.
no reason to do it now. And I'm like, well, I guess if I'm not working on YouTube videos or something, I guess I can just, design a new logo or put a font together on this cool little picture and make something out of it. And, it scratches that artist itch that doesn't get enough attention sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get to do it nearly as much as I used to. I haven't been painting or
Mhm.
drawing or whatever in so long. And I'm like, hey, I get to create
Yeah.
some stuff and share it. And I've got some more designs coming up where I'm actually like, I'm actually sitting down with ink and pens and paints and doing my thing. So those are
Yeah.
coming up.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, I dig the merchandise and everything. I'm like I said, I'm probably gonna actually end up grabbing at least one of these stickers, though. I'm looking. Yeah, I don't know. I find myself getting into trouble because every damn time I have somebody on the show, I end up buying something of theirs, and it's becoming like it's becoming a problem. I'm not gonna lie.
That became my problem when I made friends with somebody that owns a bookstore. I'm
Oh
like,
my
I am
God.
buying way more books than I normally do, and I've got a collection just built because I do read a lot, but
Yeah.
when I make friends with somebody that owns an indie bookstore, I'm like, I want to support my friend, and I want to do this, and I
Yeah,
start
for
buying
sure.
stuff.
Yeah, that's a big thing, especially with like all the artists and all the friggin' authors and stuff that I meet now.
Right?
Like,
I bought
I'm
so
like,
many books
every
from my
time they come out
followers.
with a book, they're like, this book sounds awesome. I'm like, yeah, dude, $20, let me have it. Like, here you go. I'm on your pre-order list, and I've got like 5 of them sitting on my desk right now. I just haven't made my way through yet. I'm like, I'm gonna get there though. Like,
Yeah, the great thing about about a lot of the writers that follow me is their books are on Kindle Unlimited, which I have a
oh
subscription
yeah.
to. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a lifesaver for any avid reader. Just having that little bit, it's like, God, what a godsend to have that. Well, yeah, the other thing, because we, talked about plenty of social media stuff, but there's
yeah.
always at least a place in the show. I always want to try and get a story out of whoever I'm interviewing. So, hey, I gotta
Oh,
ask you, have you ever had an experience yourself?
okay. So my one experience now, I'll tell you, and this again, I'm gonna mess with my followers here. I am not I am a born skeptic. I
Mm,
I am a science person. I read mycology published scientific papers for fun. So
yep.
I am a scientific evidence person. But
Yeah.
I will say when I was a kid, I had my stepfather, who was not a nice human being,
Mhm.
used to make me keep my door cracked about 6 inches every night.
Mhm.
And the reason he had me do it was so that he could see if I was sleeping when I was supposed to be. And rather than looking in the door and saying, hey, go to bed, when he saw me reading a comic book with a flashlight, he would just stand there in the doorway
Oh,
and
that's
just
creepy.
stare at me. Yeah, it's a the outside room was dark. My room was dark. So he's just the silhouette standing in the doorway, waiting for me to see him so that I
Mhm.
would freak out and go to bed. Again, not a nice person. But that became a thing. And then, like, it started to get to the point that I would look up at that doorway, and again, it's dark on the other side. It's dark in my room,
Mhm.
and I would see somebody standing there, but it wasn't him.
Huh.
It was the silhouette of a person wearing a wide brimmed hat. And I could count on
Oh,
one
damn.
hand the number of times I had seen my stepfather in a hat. So it
Mhm.
was not him. And I would see this man standing there, and it would just scare the hell out of me every time. And this was like a regular thing. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
once a month I would see this person standing there in a wide
And
brimmed
how
hat.
old were you? You were a kid, right?
Yeah, it started when I was like 5.
Oh, damn.
And I would just see him standing there, and I would just freeze and be horrified. And it got to the point I started sleeping under my bed on the floor, just because I would keep seeing this person standing there staring at me through a doorway, and it's just this black silhouette, no eyes, no discernible features except the shape of a man in a wide brimmed hat. And again, I was 5. I'm in my late 40s now, so this was in the early 80s, and I didn't think much of it aside from he scared the hell out of me. And it stopped probably when I was a teenager, but I gained an intense fear of the dark because of this. Like intense. I had to sleep with the hallway light on until my mid 30s. And then in my mid 30s, I was searching around on the internet, and I started seeing these stories about somebody called the Hat Man.
Uh-huh.
And there was like a actual like low budget horror film made about him. And I started seeing these stories about this silhouette of a man wearing a wide brimmed hat that people would see at night staring at them. And I was like, holy shit, what the hell? This was my boogeyman. How are other people seeing this person? And, following my account, I've mentioned the Hat Man several times because he scares the shit out of me.
Sure.
And I haven't seen it in years. It's been a long time, and I've gotten over my fear of the dark. I actually did it by watching, I'm sure you've seen them on YouTube, the videos of like top 15 and Nuke's top 5 and those. And so the way I got over my fear of the dark was watching those and trying to figure out, all right, how did this person fake this video? And I did that for about a year, and I'm no longer scared of the dark, and I'm fine with the dark, and I can walk into a spooky house or whatever. But it was so weird to have this experience growing up and then find out decades later that this wasn't just me. And that's what makes it scarier than anything. It feels like it wasn't just my imagination from my stepdad doing what he did.
Right.
This is a shared thing that other people have seen. And it's like I said, I'm a science guy, but I cannot explain that at all.
Yeah, no, that's a weird one. Like so little peek behind the curtain, and some of my listeners know this, some of them don't. I have a background in science. I'm a metrologist. I measure and study things as my day job. That's what I do. Same as you, I read like research papers and stuff for fun. I am an avid reader. I pick up scientific stuff constantly. And I unfortunately over the years of all the stuff that I studied and researched and stuff, I kind of did do a little too much research to the point that it kind of took some of the whimsy and fun out of some of the spooky stuff that I used to believe in. And one of those things that I'd done a lot of research on in the past was like shadow men and the phenomena of like where, pareidolia can be an explanation, but there's actually other psychological phenomena that can account for like the appearance of shadow men. But one part of that does kind of tend to fall apart is when you get into the stuff of like the Hat Man, of where it was like originally like some people would be like, oh, this is just a creepypasta thing. And it's like, well, no, because there are people that actually have this account and actually have seen whatever this is or this entity. And I don't have any reasonable explanation for it. I can understand other ones where it's like you're seeing something and your brain is trying to piece things together.
Right, because our brains
are a little
pattern
more than
recognition
that.
Machines.
Exactly. But that's kind of a little more than just that.
Yeah. And I do now, like I said, I was terrified of the dark, but I started getting into that stuff. And now, I do like cryptids. I do like ghost stories. It's all fun to me. Those are enjoyable things. I made a whole account about it.
Right.
but a lot of the times I am writing about the things that do scare me, like the Hat Man. When I mention the Hat Man, or I talk a lot about sleep paralysis demons, because I do get sleep paralysis and I see a shadow standing at the foot of my bed, usually the size of a child. And I'm frozen and I can't do anything. And, I know there's psychological explanations behind it, but the Hat Man, I got nothing. I just can't.
Especially when it's one that you're like looking at in a doorway or something like that, it's like there's only a certain amount of that you can kind of piece together as your brain is just playing tricks on you. And it's another thing when you're like looking dead ahead at something and you see something there. That's kind of another level.
Yeah. And I will say, I because of that, I will not, if I'm in a bedroom, if I'm in a room at night, not just a bedroom, any room, and it's dark outside of that room, the door either needs to be wide open or shut. I cannot do that 6-inch cracked thing. It just, nope.
Yeah, no, I had that problem with an ex of mine, and she always liked to have the bedroom door cracked, and I was like, absolutely not in this house. No.
Hell no, not doing it. That's a hard line.
Yep, exactly. I do not care. I've seen enough horror movies. I know what comes through that 6-inch crack. Not
exactly. I'm not doing
it. Yeah, well, I mean, hey, honestly, like that experience and knowing the background to it and everything, I can definitely see how that would kind of give you a different perspective of things. But it's cool that you've adapted it to your writing. And I don't know if you've ever heard of, you're pretty, you're an avid reader, so you may have heard of. You ever heard of the tulpa phenomena?
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of one thing that I kind of wonder.
Bring things.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it makes you kind of wonder how much of that is a manifestation of like everyone else imagining this boogeyman of the Hat Man or something.
Oh God, did I create the Hat Man?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, you could be the responsible for it. And now that every time you write about it on the internet, you're just passing it on to somebody else, like a fucking magneto hazard.
This was my stepfather's abuse, and you all have to deal with it. All right, here we go.
Physically manifested that, and you just pass it on like the damn smile demon or something like that. Yeah,
well, I accomplished something.
Yeah, hey, I mean, that's it's got to be good for something. Right? Like, educate them somehow.
The best out of it.
Right. Well, hey, man, I really had a blast talking to you.
Me too. This has been great.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation I want to continue another time. I don't usually like to keep more than an hour and a half at most per an episode, but I definitely think that you and I have more conversations to be had. So maybe sometime in the near future, I'll get you back on the show and stuff. But before we do anything else, first I want to ask you, when's your podcast going to be coming out?
Oh, you know what? I've considered it, and I'm like, I don't know if I have room on my plate for another thing. And does the world really need, another one of me behind a microphone? I've considered it though. I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, you know what? Christian's already got this covered.
I honestly, like, it was funny because I was talking to somebody when I early on when I was doing the first season of Acadia After Dark. I was talking to somebody, and I had mentioned to them, I was like, well, yeah, I'm kind of trying to find my place in like the horror podcast thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if there's like a bunch of, a lot of these accounts. I'm like, everybody I talk to, I'm like, it's either a wrestling podcast or it's a spooky podcast. And the guy's like, really thinks that we need another, like, just like generic, like talking about Bigfoot or something. I'm like, no, I guess not. And that was kind of what shifted my direction to be a little more focused on, like, I mean, with mine, it's more like I'm focused on like Maine specifically as far as like the lore that I draw from.
I will say, as an outsider, I really love that, because I'll tell you, the only thing I know about Maine, and it just happens to be spooky, is Stephen King. That's it. That's the only thing I've known about Maine. And I've learned so much from your YouTube channel and your like little 5-minute things that I had no idea about most of those things.
Oh, it's such a weirdly diverse region, and that was why, like, I pretty quickly realized, like, oh, I really could just do this as my entire thing. Because at first I was like, well, I could do all of Appalachia, then I thought about it for, by the time that I researched half of the first season of the show, I was already like, I don't need to do anything outside of my own state. It's like I've got everything I would want to research is right here in my own backyard.
Yeah.
And as far as like the Stephen King things, like, it's funny because part of like the inspiration for why I really got into local folklore, along with just living here, is the fact that like everybody I would talk to that was like of certain traditions or something like that would be like, Stephen King got it so wrong. But then it's like everybody else that's their reference for Maine is like Stephen King. And he's a horror legend, of course.
Oh, yeah.
He has made his mark. And he's always going to be like integral to horror in general. And especially when anybody thinks of Maine, it's impossible to not think of Stephen King. And for that, I'm always going to be grateful because it's kind of, I get to stand on the shoulders of giants because of
yeah. Because Derry is the de facto horror capital of Maine.
Exactly. And Derry is literally like the Derry he based his book, like in his books, is an hour from me.
Oh, nice.
But when I talk to people from outside of the US that don't know anything about Maine, the first time that Maine got brought up was somebody that was not from this country. In a just normal day-to-day conversation. I was on a vacation in Old Orchard Beach, and I met these Australians. There was just a group of like 6 teenagers, and I think I was like 18 or 19 at the time, and we were all just hanging out or whatever, hanging out on this boardwalk, and we were chatting. And so they were like, so where do you keep all the werewolves? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, Stephen King, they're like, we listen to, they're like, all the stories over here, they're all about like werewolves and vampires and ghosts and stuff. Where are all those? And I was like, oh, well, you guys aren't supposed to know about that. And ever since then, I was just like, you know what? Someday I'm going to do something with that. And then it spawned into what is like now become Acadia After Dark, which honestly, one of the most fun things I've ever been able to do in my life was just research all about my home state and be able to learn more about the spooky shit that happens here. But also the second part of it that's always been really, really gratifying is I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people as a result of it.
Yeah.
You being one of them. You and I have had some pretty cool interactions on social media. That first day that you reached out to me and you were like, hey, I'm listening to your episode right now and I'm drinking my coffee. I was like, I think that this is a person that is absolutely, we're going to vibe. So I was like, okay, keeping this DM right here because that's going to be one that I'm going to go back to. And I'm so glad that I finally got to have you on the show.
Well,
it's been a blast talking to you, man.
You too. And I do love it because like you said, we both came up kind of that first weekend in that first week. I kind of look at your Threads page as kind of like I kind of feel an attachment there that I'm like, hey, we both did this at the same time. We both did it together and we share a lot and we have a lot of crossover. So yeah. And I'm happy to be, your repeat guest.
I think you're going to end up being a pretty regular on here because we definitely have leagues to talk about because I haven't even gotten into any of the stuff to do with your neck of the woods. I haven't gotten into any of your stuff to do with like any other things that and spooky knowledge and things.
We didn't talk about 90% of the stuff we had planned on. We were just vibing.
Nope. Just vibing. And that's why I said this is a very casual podcast. So we will definitely have another episode in the near future. And hey, I think that people will enjoy it. I know I've enjoyed talking to you. I really appreciate it. Before we get ready to wrap things up, where can people find you? Anything you want to promote or plug before we get ready to go?
I'd say anybody can find me on Threads. It's a wonderful community over there. I'm on at the campsite official. _campsite_official on Threads, and we've got a great little community over there. And I always love to meet new people and have some fun experiences.
Oh yeah, I'll be adding your links in the description of the video so people can find you. I'll also include your Redbubble website there. So
thank you.
Grab a sticker or a shirt or something because man, those are really cool. And I know I'm going to end up buying one myself. So I'll throw all of that stuff in the description.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. And hey, anytime that you're ever doing anything, if you have something that you want to pass forward or if you want it boosted in any way, just let me know. I'm always happy. I always offer that extension if somebody starts up something and they need somewhere for it to like have a little boost in something. I'm always happy to share it. So let me know if
Same
I
to
can
you.
ever do anything to help you out.
I love promoting your account on mine. So yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. You're always very consistent with like rethreading my stuff and things. I guess it would be called rethreading because it
I
was always
guess.
retweeting back in the day. Never really assigned descriptions to what we do over here. It's just
Yeah,
kind of a
we're all
different
just
vibe.
doing our own thing.
It really is. It's a whole other experience and it's kind of cool. But
I
hey,
love it.
so yeah, definitely. If listeners, if you're not already, and there's probably at least a handful of you that are, but if you aren't already, I definitely recommend you go and check out the Campsite Official on Threads. They're a fun account. So cool to just read all the fun little blurbs throughout the day, throughout the week. Sometimes they'll make you laugh, sometimes they'll uplift you, sometimes they'll make you kind of go, huh? But at the same time, it's
That's accurate.
always in good fun. So I really appreciate everything you do. You bring a good light spot to the internet where at a time that is desperately needed. So thank you for what you're doing over there.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you on. We will be back soon, definitely, because this was a fun time, and I have more and more questions the more the conversation has gone on. So we will definitely do this again soon. As always, listeners, this is the Reverend Redbeard for the Acadia After Dark official podcast. I've got to say that now because we have split the show into 4 ways. Uh, this is also the first recorded episode where I can plug the new acadiaafterdark.com. So that will be your central hub for everything to do with the show and anything moving forward. We're still present on social media. Threads is our most active as always, but if you want to keep up to date with everything on the show, definitely check us out over there. And as always, y'all, stay safe out there, keep your lanterns lit, and we'll talk soon. Have a good one.